horrifies me to say this, Meghan back on royal property.
F off back to Montecito.
Meghan gets to do a victory lap.
Americans don't like losers. What a public relations triumph this is for the Sussexes, a couple that have done so much damage to the royal family.
But she doesn't want things to be private. She doesn't want things to look like they have the appearance of still being on the outside if, no one can see that they are benefiting from being in alignment with royalty again. Because the Sussex brand was built on the royal connection.
Why did Buckingham Palace feel compelled to confirm that a meeting took place on Friday evening? Was it the Friday evening news dump? Did they hope it would get lost in some, bigger headlines?
Good luck with that.
What was was it Harry and Meghan saying, we hate all of this, we hate the attacks, so we need for you to release that we met so that people know that we're on good terms? What was the point of, why do we know right now? Why are you and I talking about this?
Meghan Markle's return to Britain became far more than an ordinary visit. She stepped back onto royal grounds, entered King Charles's private residence, reunited Archie and Lilibet with their grandfather, and helped transform Harry's difficult UK week into the one outcome many critics believed was no longer possible. But instead of ending the speculation, the reunion sparked even more questions. Why did Meghan suddenly agree to a private royal meeting after staying away from Britain for so long? Why did she avoid every public appearance, yet arrive for the single moment that appeared to rebuild the Sussexes' connection with the king? Why did Buckingham Palace choose to confirm the meeting in the first place? Good luck with that. And did Harry and Meghan just regain the royal credibility their American image had been struggling to hold on to? One commentator suggested Meghan was using the children as leverage with Charles. Another claimed
It's giving Harry and Meghan exactly what they want, credibility. It erases the hurts that they've caused over the last 6 years. They've not said I'm sorry publicly. We don't know about privately, but I highly doubt it. But it's, in a way, Meghan gets to do a victory lap here because, to your point, she is back on royal property.
It's been a never-ending soap opera to get to this stage.
The titles matter. Having an open family connection matters to Meghan Markle. Knowing that they have proximity to royalty, it matters. So the story only works if Harry still has some doorway back into the royal world.
she seemed determined to protect her remaining royal connections at all costs. Those competing opinions only pushed the public debate into an even bigger spotlight. So, are the couple now trying to rebuild the royal relationship they once stepped away from? Did this private family gathering represent a genuine breakthrough? Or did one quiet afternoon hand the Sussexes their biggest public relations success in years? Buckingham Palace confirmed that King Charles and Queen Camilla welcomed Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet to Highgrove. That single confirmed detail completely changed how Harry's visit ended. Just days earlier, he appeared stuck in another difficult week filled with setbacks. Instead of a peaceful family trip, the public watched yet another battle of competing briefings and headlines. Meghan was nowhere beside him during that controversy. Then everything shifted at the very end. She had quietly arrived in Britain. Archie and Lilibet were with her. Harry was no longer heading back to California, carrying only a court loss.
What about Thomas Markle? Does he not get a look in? If she's so keen, Harry, with his father recovering from cancer and still having treatment, the other side, repair the family connections, however hard it might be. And the Markle family is as dysfunctional at times, maybe even more so than our own royal family. So I think, maybe it's time to take a long, hard look and say, well, perhaps from a PR perspective, we need to steal the deal everywhere.
His people release he's under threat from at least 6 plots in the UK.
Very important. He's a very important person.
And Dan Wootton he responded like, this is the most ridiculous, artificial, made up document. It comes from Harry's office.
And another disagreement involving the palace. Instead, he had secured time with his father, reunited his family at Highgrove, and closed the week with the one moment nobody was permitted to witness, yet everyone suddenly could not stop talking about for days afterward. Another difficult comparison has now entered the conversation for the Sussexes, and this time it involves Meghan's father, Thomas Markle. Several commentators have questioned why rebuilding ties with Harry's father now appears so important, while Meghan continues to remain estranged from her own father. The two situations are not the same, and nobody outside the family knows every private detail behind either relationship. Even so, if this reunion is being presented as evidence that grandchildren should have a relationship with their grandfather, critics are likely to ask why that same reasoning would not also apply to Meghan's side of the family. Then there is the security debate, which many people see as a major contradiction. Harry argued for years that returning to Britain was simply too dangerous without the level of police protection he believed his family needed, especially for Meghan and the children. He repeatedly warned that his family could become targets, insisted the risks were far too serious to dismiss.
By doing that, Harry has just completely undermined the argument that he has spent months making that the country is too unsafe for his family.
With Meghan getting back into a royal property, I think the optics of it are horrible. It's a triumph. The Sussexes, notwithstanding how chaotic and scatological they are, notwithstanding the negative headlines, they've won. And more specifically, Meghan has won.
It re-establishes their royal credentials, albeit they are no longer working royals. The fact is they can pop in and have tea. I hope they had Highgrove jam, which is far better than the Meghan slop that she calls spread. Meghan seems to be desperate to have the links with the royal family, even albeit in these private circumstances, but it shows that they've still got a bit of an olive branch and a bit of a way in to enhance their royal connections.
And made the security dispute one of his biggest battles with the British establishment. Yet after all those warnings, Meghan, Archie and Lilibet still travelled to Britain and made their way to Highgrove for a private meeting with the royal family. So what was all that public controversy really about? If Britain was genuinely too dangerous for his family, why did they return as soon as a meeting with the king became possible? The moment private access to the monarch was available, the family that had supposedly been unable to return safely suddenly found a way to do exactly that, raising even more questions among observers. Critics are no longer asking only whether the reunion itself was warm or meaningful. They are also asking what Buckingham Palace's confirmation gave Harry and Meghan. Before Highgrove, the Sussexes appeared to be standing outside the royal circle. After Highgrove, they could point to a confirmed private meeting with the king. Before Highgrove, critics argued Harry no longer had meaningful access to the monarch. After Highgrove, that claim became much more difficult to make.
The king is still kind of supporting Harry. I think it's just not good. You have seen what they have done in the past. Learn from that. They have already put a lot of things out there that don't look good for the monarchy in terms of the allegations that Harry is trying to walk back now.
Private moment from the firm's point of view, but it might not be so private for Meghan and Harry. You just have to worry that this could be more material for another Netflix documentary or a future book.
Before Highgrove, Meghan's return to Britain seemed almost impossible. After Highgrove, she had been welcomed into one of King Charles's most personal residences. Highgrove was never just another meeting place. It is the King's private home in Gloucestershire and a place filled with memories from Harry's childhood. Charles welcomed the Sussex family into a setting deeply connected to both his own life and Harry's past. But isn't this exactly what the Sussexes have wanted all along? For years, their public profile has continued to draw strength from one powerful thing above everything else: their royal connection and lasting family ties. Their connection to the royal family has always been at the centre of it all. Much of their public influence, recognition, and global attention has been tied to that relationship with the monarchy. So if Meghan, Harry, Archie and Lilibet have now returned to royal property and met with the king inside Highgrove, many observers see that as a major victory for the Sussexes. They can now argue that the door has not been completely closed. They can now point out that the king still welcomes them privately. They can now remind Hollywood, Netflix, and audiences across America that they are not simply former working royals speaking from California. They can still say they maintain a direct connection to the crown. That naturally leads to another uncomfortable question. Why did Buckingham Palace allow events to unfold this way? Did King Charles unintentionally provide the Sussexes with exactly the image they needed after one of Harry's most difficult weeks in Britain? Did he restore an important royal connection at the exact moment their public image needed fresh momentum? Supporters would argue that Charles was acting as a grandfather rather than a strategist. They would say he simply wanted time with Archie and Lilibet and believed family mattered more than another cycle of headlines after years apart. Critics, however, may question whether that act of kindness also created a new challenge for the palace. Because once Harry and Meghan are welcomed back into the royal circle, even behind closed doors, every future story surrounding them becomes more difficult for people to ignore. Every anonymous briefing, every documentary teaser, and every source said to be close to the couple may suddenly carry greater significance. Was Charles attempting to repair family relationships, or did he unintentionally hand the Sussex brand the symbolic comeback moment it had been hoping to rebuild? Royal commentators first described the reunion as nothing more than a grandfather spending time with his grandchildren, but many also said the real test would come afterward. Would the meeting remain completely private? Would the Sussexes leave every detail out of future interviews, books, documentaries, and television projects, or would carefully chosen information eventually surface and turn one quiet family gathering into another media storm? That is the question Buckingham Palace cannot answer today. Reports indicate Harry assured Charles that he would not publicly discuss what happened during the visit. No photographs are expected to be released. The palace has shared very few details. For now, the privacy surrounding the gathering appears to have remained intact, but trust is not measured or confirmed in only 48 hours. Harry and Meghan have previously spoken about tensions within the royal family through high-profile interviews. Their Netflix series and Harry's memoir making many observers continue watching closely for what may happen next. Past events alone do not prove this private meeting will ever be discussed publicly. What they do explain is why royal aides, commentators and observers are paying close attention to everything that happens next. Do the Sussexes deserve another opportunity to rebuild trust? Or do critics believe they have already been given too many chances? Will an anonymous source eventually describe how Charles reacted to seeing the children again? Will a publication viewed as friendly report that the reunion was warm and deeply emotional? Will another source claim the atmosphere was distant instead? Could a future documentary include footage from the wider UK visit, while carefully leaving out anything connected to the gates of Highgrove? Just one unexpected leak could ignite the entire debate all over again. And perhaps the most surprising part is that the Sussexes attracted enormous attention without releasing a single photograph. And they never needed an image of Meghan standing beside Charles. Buckingham Palace's confirmation accomplished that on its own. It confirmed she had returned to Britain. It confirmed the children had entered a royal setting. It confirmed Charles agreed to the private meeting. Ironically, the lack of photographs only created more curiosity, more speculation, and even greater demand for details that nobody outside the room was able to see. For weeks, the Sussexes kept everyone guessing. The story became an ongoing game of will they or will they not? Then look at what followed. They remained at the center of the headlines for weeks. Every unexpected development created another news cycle, another public debate, and another wave of attention across television, newspapers, and social media. Whether planned or not, the approach kept Harry and Meghan firmly in the spotlight of the royal conversation. Their public profile suddenly seemed to be everywhere once again. Some critics view the outcome as a major public relations victory, others see it differently. Either way, one point is difficult to ignore. After weeks of non-stop headlines, the Sussexes have once again become one of the biggest stories surrounding the royal family. Was that a setback for Meghan because she never publicly displayed the reunion? Or was keeping everything private actually the smarter strategy because it gave her renewed royal proximity without requiring her to face a British crowd? As many commentators continue pointing out, public criticism of Harry and Meghan in Britain remains especially strong. Meghan avoided every potentially difficult public moment. There were no hostile questions, no uncomfortable public arrival, and no photograph beside Harry immediately after his court defeat. She remained out of sight during the toughest headlines, only appearing within the private family meeting that completely changed the direction of the entire week and dominated discussion afterward. According to some critics, Meghan chose to take part in the one part of the visit that carried the greatest long-term value. Harry's public appearances came with significant risks. Highgrove, on the other hand, offered something many believe carried royal legitimacy. Invictus would have placed Meghan directly in front of television cameras. Highgrove placed her behind closed doors with the king himself. It almost feels ironic when viewed from that perspective, doesn't it? Meghan has long been linked with high-profile appearances, television cameras, flashing lights, and worldwide publicity. Yet this visit looked completely different. There were no red carpets, no public walkabouts, and no official photographs released. So why remain out of sight? Was there a larger objective behind that decision? Some royal commentators believe there may have been. They argue that a private reunion with King Charles could ultimately carry far greater long-term value than a few hours of media attention. Rather than pursuing headlines in front of the cameras, they suggest the real achievement may have been restoring a direct connection with the royal family behind closed doors. One of the arguments repeated most often is that the Sussexes' original California strategy had not produced the overwhelming level of success many expected. Some commentators claimed Meghan may now recognize the importance of rebuilding goodwill with King Charles and strengthening those family connections. One royal commentator even used the striking phrase that Meghan was dangling the children like a carrot before the king. That description reflects one opinion and should not be treated as an established fact. Reports have suggested Charles had not seen Archie and Lilibet since 2022. Harry has repeatedly spoken about wanting reconciliation. Meghan had remained away from Britain for several years. Then, during a week when Harry seemed to need one positive outcome more than ever, the children became the link that finally brought everyone together in the same place. Another royal expert argued that Meghan appeared determined to preserve her connections with the royal family. The private meeting also restored, at least in the eyes of some observers, part of the Sussexes' royal credentials, even though they are no longer working members of the royal family. That expression matters because it speaks directly to the value many place on royal credentials. Harry and Meghan can launch businesses, appear at conferences, support charitable causes, and produce entertainment projects, yet few things generate the same worldwide attention as direct contact with the king. Time and again, their biggest headlines seem to arrive whenever the royal family becomes part of the story, keeping that connection firmly in the spotlight across the world today. A new lifestyle project may attract attention, but a private meeting with King Charles generates headlines around the world. That does not automatically mean the family relationship lacks sincerity. It simply shows that the personal connection also carries undeniable public significance. Every confirmed reunion reconnects Harry and Meghan's American public life with the royal institution that first made them internationally recognized. That is why many commentators describe it as a significant victory for Meghan. By returning to royal property, she had, in their view, restored a measure of credibility connected to her royal ties. Harry once enjoyed extraordinary popularity, influence, and access as a senior royal before stepping away from official duties. Many critics believe those advantages were damaged after leaving royal life and publicly criticizing the institution. Some royal experts argue that he does not simply miss public service itself. They believe he also misses the recognition, the influence, and the professional opportunities that came from being closely connected to the monarchy. That remains their interpretation. Harry has consistently said his decisions were made to protect his family and leave behind a system he believed was causing them harm. Even so, his repeated visits to Britain for legal proceedings, charitable work, Invictus activities, and meetings with King Charles suggest he has not completely cut every royal connection. Now he has also brought Meghan and the children back into a royal residence. So what exactly has Harry managed to leave behind? He may now live in California, yet Britain continues to shape many of his biggest headlines. He may criticize parts of the royal system, but a meeting with the king can still redefine the public conversation surrounding his entire visit. He may challenge sections of the press, yet his legal disputes continue placing him directly at the centre of British media coverage. That contrast became especially noticeable during the Invictus event. Harry attended without Meghan and focused public attention on the one-year countdown to the 2027 Invictus Games in Birmingham. Her absence allowed more attention to remain on Harry, the competitors, and the event's charitable mission, rather than shifting toward broader celebrity coverage. Some commentators even suggested Meghan's decision not to attend may actually have helped keep the focus on Invictus instead of fashion or celebrity headlines. At the same time, her absence also meant she avoided the toughest public questions. She did not have to address Harry's court defeat, nor explain why the family could quietly return to Britain despite years of public concerns over security arrangements and previous warnings. Instead, Meghan did not have to stand beside Harry while reporters questioned whether the palace had rejected their accommodation arrangements. She was able to remain completely out of the public spotlight until the private family reunion had already taken place and the meeting was over. Now the long-running security debate is facing even closer scrutiny. Harry has consistently maintained that he does not feel comfortable bringing Meghan and the children to Britain without what he considers appropriate protection, yet the family travelled to Highgrove without any publicly reported security incident, and their movements remained private until after the reunion had already happened. Some critics argue this proves Harry's security concerns were overstated. That conclusion, however, is much too straightforward. One successful private visit does not automatically resolve his legal arguments or practical concerns about future protection during every trip. Highgrove is a tightly controlled private residence, and special arrangements may have been put in place specifically for that gathering. Even so, the public perception remains challenging. The family arrived, while the secrecy was maintained. The journey was completed successfully. Naturally, many people are now asking the same question. If this visit was possible once, why had Britain been described for so long as a place that was almost impossible for the children to visit safely? Then comes perhaps the biggest unanswered question of all. Why did Buckingham Palace confirm the meeting while Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet were reportedly still in Britain? If maintaining security required such strict privacy, why not wait until the family had already departed? If the gathering was intended to remain completely private, why confirm it publicly at all? Did Buckingham Palace want to take control of the story before another source revealed it? Did Harry and Meghan want official confirmation that the meeting had taken place? Or did both sides decide that one brief statement would be safer than allowing days of competing reports and endless speculation? The truth is, nobody outside those involved knows for certain. Yet the announcement dramatically changed the direction of Harry's week. His court defeat did not disappear. The confusion over accommodation did not disappear. The criticisms surrounding his whitewash statement did not disappear. Even so, every one of those stories suddenly had to compete with news of a family reunion that very few people expected to happen. Harry lost the courtroom battle, but he secured the family meeting. Meghan stayed away from the public-facing events, yet still found herself back on royal property, strengthening one of the biggest talking points surrounding the entire visit in the eyes of many observers. Buckingham Palace protected the private details of the gathering, but at the same time it confirmed that the Sussexes had been welcomed for the meeting. In many ways, every side appeared to gain something, and every side also accepted a certain level of risk. King Charles spent valuable time with his grandchildren, yet some critics argued that Harry and Meghan had been rewarded with renewed royal access without any public apology or clear resolution to past disagreements. Harry re-established direct contact with his father, but now he faces a different challenge. Many observers believe he must demonstrate that the meeting can remain completely private. Meghan, meanwhile, regained a visible connection to the royal family without ever stepping into a public event, leading some commentators to question her motives even more strongly. That is why many believe the next move matters even more than the reunion itself. If Harry and Meghan leave Britain without revealing private details, releasing photographs, or using the visit as part of a future media project, some may see it as the strongest sign yet that they are capable of showing restraint. If King Charles welcomes them again, many observers will likely see that as a sign that private trust survived this reunion. But if detailed stories suddenly begin appearing that describe the King's private comments or reactions, Questions will immediately be asked about how that information became public. If a future documentary later turns this visit into an emotional storyline, critics will almost certainly argue that Highgrove eventually became part of the Sussex narrative even without cameras inside the residence. If Meghan announces a major project while headlines about the reunion are still dominating the news, some commentators are likely to argue that the renewed family connection has been transformed into commercial attention. That is why many believe silence has now become the real test. Not another statement, not another interview, just silence. Can Harry accept a personal victory without turning it into something public? Can Meghan accept renewed royal access without an official photograph or public appearance? Can Buckingham Palace arrange another private family meeting without worrying that confidential conversations could eventually become headline news? And what happens if the answer is no? Because Harry and Meghan did far more than simply return to Highgrove. They reopened a door that had seemed almost completely closed. The reunion gave King Charles precious time with his grandchildren. It gave Harry a more positive ending to an otherwise difficult visit. It gave Meghan renewed proximity to the crown. It also handed critics an entirely new set of questions that could continue long after the visit itself had ended. So now it's your turn. What do you think really happened behind those closed doors? Was this simply a genuine family reunion that deserves to remain private? Did Archie and Lilibet naturally become the bridge that helped reconnect Charles and Harry? Or do you agree with the commentators who believe the Sussexes still benefit enormously from maintaining visible royal connections? Why do you think Meghan avoided every public event but attended the private meeting with the king? Why did Buckingham Palace decide to confirm the reunion? And do you believe every detail will remain secret after Harry and Meghan return to America? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel for more updates on the latest royal stories and developments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.